because at the personal level, I, Glenn Loury, have been arguing two different kinds of things, and it's a kind of Janus-faced, argument that I'm engaged in. I'm pointing in two different directions with my face at the same time. On the one hand, I say transracial humanism is the only way for the country. That is, at the end of the day, de-racialize. Don't defund the police, de-racialize them, by which I mean stop talking about policing and crime and punishment in racial terms, talk about it in human terms. Don't racialize the inequality problem, humanize the inequality problem. If the wealth disparity is too great, there are a lot of poor white people in this country, a lot of working class white people in this country too. We can talk about wealth disparity. We don't have to make it into a racial thing. The way forward for America in the 21st century is to move away from racial categories as the framework within which to conduct our public business. I'm against reparations. I have, affirmative action as a transitional program is one thing. Affirmative action as a permanent way of doing business, racial affirmative action, I'm against that. I think it's a mistake for the country. I think we have to find our way out of the box of affirmative action, not double down on it. This is Glenn Loury. I want to get beyond race. On the other hand, I regard myself as a Black intellectual, as an African American. I'm from the South Side of Chicago. It's a part of my identity. Quote unquote, my people. I say my people, and I mean both the American people, but I also mean African American people. I want their affirmation. I want to be able to go home again. I want to be loved by Black people. It chafes at me as an economist that the Black economists don't recognize me as a Black economist. They don't. I'm among the most distinguished living economists of African American descent on the planet. I'm sorry to have to say that myself, but it is true, however. And this organization that puts forward tons of, I'm talking about the National Economics Association, I'm talking about the Black Economists Group, which puts forward a lot of output that is meant to influence young African Americans who are coming along, don't acknowledge that I exist. I'm not a Black economist as far as they're concerned. And that chafes at me. I want to be a Black economist. I want Black kids at Morehouse to look up to Glenn Loury as a model of what it is that you can do as a Black person in the world. Now, why should I do that if, in fact, I want transracial humanism and I want to get out of the race counting business and I want the country to look at problems in non-racial terms? And yet I look at my own life very much in racial terms. And that is a bit of an unresolved intellectual challenge that I'm trying to confront in my writing and in my thinking just now, to square that circle. I'm Black by identity and by a sense of belonging and by a narrative that I give to my own life. What is my life? Well, in part, it's the life of a Black kid, working class, South Side of Chicago, ended up at MIT, got to the Ivy League, is a public intellectual and has some conservative leaning, but I'm still Black. Just like Clarence Thomas, I'm sure, thinks of himself as Black, even though Charles Blow doesn't think of him as Black, at least not in the same way. I'm sorry to pick on Charles, but you know what I'm getting at. And yet, on the other hand, I think that for my country, we need to get out of the race business. And I think that whereas, although I am Black, Shakespeare is mine, Tolstoy is mine, Einstein is mine, Western civilization is mine. I don't feel that my Blackness disqualifies me from being an American patriot. I'm trying to, et cetera. So enough about me, but it's just the point of, there's one thing to say when we talk American politics, is there a Black community? It's another thing to say when I talk about my own life, am I a Black man? And I, to my grave, I think, will always be thinking of myself in those terms. Does that seem confusing or contradictory to you?
No, it doesn't. There's the issue of basic identity, the reality that we live in, the ocean that we swim in. And then there's what we need to have in the future. And it's clear that we need to have a transracial, non-racial future, that's what we're supposed to be going for. But that doesn't mean that that's how we're going to feel as human beings within the 80-year lifespan that, we tend to be given. Yeah, I definitely get what you mean. But I'm
counting on more than 7 years, John.
Sorry, that 95 years.
There you go.
Sorry.
Now you're talking.